Welcome everybody out there in podcast land to the time of good people company proudly present the Loft Party Podcast, where it is always about good times, good people, and good talk. Please subscribe to the Loft Party Podcast on YouTube, Facebook, or SoundCloud. Be sure to tell a friend you've received your invitation, and welcome to the party. I'm your host and panel moderator, Rio, and let's introduce today's panel. Of course, we've got our returning champion, Chris O'Connor.
Hey, welcome back, Chris.
Thank you so much.
He is the co-owner of Liquid 9 Broadcast Media. We have Lane Bolin.
What's up?
As he's lighting his Sir Walter Raleigh in his pipe. And he is a wealth manager. We have Brian Massey. He is a market analyst for True Media and our resident brain Mass. And of course, the anonymous female, because she doesn't want you to know her name. We may have one more guest. We may have one more guest dropping in, but until they do, we're going to reserve that name for last. So, when I sent the email out about the podcast, I entitled it, "What the Hell Happened This Week?"
Yeah.
For a couple of reasons. One, part of the week, we were on vacation in Vegas. And part of the week, I was sequestered helping my mom do some things around her house.
Yeah, how's your mom?
She's good. She's good. So with all that, I was not really paying attention to the world. So I had to quickly refresh myself on things that happened. And I will jump right in with the funniest thing that I heard as soon as we were on the plane coming back from Vegas. Kim Kardashian gets bound and gagged and $10 million worth of jewelry stolen from her in Paris.
Right.
The messed up thing is...
we have some skeptics, I'm hearing.
Well, the messed up thing is, I believe this, and the only reason I believe it is you can't Instagram every damn thing.
No.
That's the problem. Like we didn't even put on Facebook that we went to Vegas until we got back from Vegas.
Yep.
And you're putting your probably $5 million wedding ring on Instagram all the time. So people know a little too much about you.
It's not just Instagram though. They have their own apps.
Yeah,
They're on TV.
And that's what I'm saying.
They're in the newspapers.
I'm like, it just people know a little too much about what you own. And I have heard on multiple occasions, them Parisian gangsters really don't care. They really don't care. So, you know.
There's
As
gangs
somebody who lived in
Paris
for a while,
I
lived in Paris for
not
6
gangs,
months. I mean,
but you
there's
know,
a lot of
Organized
criminals.
crime.
well, yes,
You
yeah.
got the Russians, and then you have
A lot of Middle Easterners
Albanians.
are now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
take
we
over
have
Saint Denis,
seen,
the entire Saint Denis area.
Yeah.
we have
And they're
seen
13% of the
Taken.
population.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where that movie takes place. Paris.
Absolutely.
Guy's my hero.
And one of the saddest parts of the city too, because there's a church there, the Church of Saint Denis, which is the Saint Denis area, which is famous for having every French emperor and king buried there.
Oh wow.
So it really is this badass tourist spot. If you ever get a chance to go, it's super
And
cool,
it's
and
full
it's
of
in
crime.
the middle of just the worst area of town you could ever go.
Isn't that how it always goes? The best places to visit are the worst crime areas.
Oh yeah, it's where they had all the riots a couple years ago. And the kid electrocuted himself when the cops were chasing him.
Oh, yeah.
That was all in Saint Denis.
Yeah. We did get our final guest joining us today, and that of course is Dave Elliott. We call him Big Dave, owner of C&P Construction. What's going on, Big Dave?
Bonjour, comment ça va?
Ça va?
Oui, it's what?
It's muy bien.
Je ne sais pas.
Son of a bitch.
I'm doing all right. I've just arrived back in town yesterday from a weekend we call the men's fall camp out.
Oh, we have heard about this
After
on the
playing
podcast.
golf in Farmington, Missouri on Friday, we proceeded to get ourselves very trashed and stay that way in a permanent state until sometime Sunday morning.
I was going to say, this is a reoccurring thing.
So I'm working on my brain again just to see if I can get it back in functioning mode before I have to go make too many large business decisions.
Indeed.
But it's a good thing that a man or a woman on occasion should do. Look at that.
That is a beautiful thing.
No, worms in my cigar.
Oh, shoot, yes.
I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, they didn't clean the leaf well.
It's kind of like the mezcal worms, though. You know, you smoke it and you get another buzz. So maybe I'll get back to where I was this weekend.
All right.
I'll trust you on that one.
Lane's like, I just smoked that in a pipe.
I'll do it.
Before we move to the next topic on the list, any comments on Kim Kardashian getting robbed in Paris?
All right, the term that comes to my mind is something that I use in the construction industry quite a bit.
Bullshit.
No, you can't stop stupid. Stupid is going to turn around on Instagram and take pictures of Oliver Bling and say, look at me, and this is where I am.
Right.
Yeah, and which is exactly what I think happened. I think, look at me, I'm in Paris, you're showing everything that you own, and so when they kicked in your hotel room door,
Is that what they did?
yeah, basically, they kicked in the hotel room door.
Now, where were her, like, bodyguards and stuff? They're always around their doors.
This was an inside job.
I really
There's
believe
no doubt about it.
Now that I believe.
Yeah. So last
I
time she
believe
was in
the
Paris, she got
guards
attacked.
or the nanny or somebody.
Really? I didn't know that.
She got attacked at the Paris Fashion Show. In fact, our staff photographer, was shooting Paris Fashion Week and was about from me to you from her shooting.
Oh, wow.
When the guy jumped on her and tried to attack her and all this kind of
I
stuff.
do remember that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would want to go
Paris,
back to
or,
Paris after that, but isn't that one of Kanye's
I was gonna
favorite
say,
places
yeah, I was
in the
gonna say,
world?
Kanye loves Paris, so like this has got to be wildly distressing. I mean, he kind of made a hit record about it with a friend of his. So, yeah, I don't know how this is gonna work out.
It's a great album, though.
Yeah,
That's one of my favorite songs
yeah, man.
on that album.
Okay, so not that I wanted to in particularly jump into politics, but
Oh man, this is my favorite.
this has been an extra special kind of week. Once again, what the fuck happened this week?
Did anybody watch the debate last night? That's
Yeah.
what- oh my God.
I got into it just in time to say when Trump turned to Hillary when she was cracking on him about law and order, and he says, "Yeah, if I had it, you'd be in jail." Or
Oh,
whatever.
so you missed because they were talking about the emails.
Guys, I caught some of that too, and it just seemed to me she was doing a lot of apologizing last night.
No, I think Trump was trying to do more because the first half hour of it was all about his stupidity and
I
being
missed
on.
the first half hour.
It was all about his
think what's-
stupidity on being caught on tape
Oh
talking.
yeah, talking about grabbing girls in the crotch.
I think what's more interesting is watching the Republican establishment,
Yeah, that which is
the man backpedal away from the Donald.
Yeah, it's
Oh, would you
been
know?
that's been
Yeah.
that's been really interesting. I've been
Like
reading
Paul
about.
Ryan refusing the.
Yeah.
I gotta admit, I'd love to see somehow they able to insert Mitt Romney in there.
Sure.
Because I think a lot of people that didn't vote for him the last time would realize their mistake in not doing so.
They were talking about would it even be possible for him
Yeah,
to quit,
well,
and they said it's too late at this point. But
I think the crazy thing is,
And that's why. There's
I'm
too many
If
already.
it was a month earlier,
Your only chance to do is to get everybody somehow to do a write-in.
Yeah.
You know, like a Republican write-in vote.
But why is the establishment backing away from Donald when the other option is the Republican Antichrist Hillary?
Listen, I think there's a little bit. It's a little bit different to go, and the whole bullshit about the locker room talk.
Yeah.
And that's no locker room I've ever been in where you actually encourage and say that you sexually assault women.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different. Like
Yeah.
locker room talk is, man, that chick's hot, blah blah blah.
Right.
Time on Friday, that was
What
fun.
would I give to?
right.
Mario and I had that conversation this morning, and I'm just gonna say, I was really pissed off hearing that, listening to his bullshit excuse, and then watching women on Facebook repost that it was okay. I was beyond, like, I don't even know how you can possibly, I don't care what your political view is, I really don't.
Yeah.
But how you could even support a man, being a
Well,
woman,
here's the
that would
one
do
line.
that.
Here's the one line where I would say that you could, is your opponent's husband has been accused of rape in 1978, had a payoff on that, has been caught in numerous affairs multiple times. So he's not just locker room talking, he's actually out there
But
doing
my
it.
thing is,
Trump,
that's
as far
not
as
Hillary.
I know, I don't know.
That's my thing. You're basing your judgment of her on something her husband
I
did.
absolutely am.
But
That
she was-
she would
she
tolerate
was
that.
integral in the
That she would
cover-up.
tolerate that.
Okay,
for
that's
40
fine,
years.
but you're
Yeah.
you guys are doing exactly what he was doing. He was deflecting on, oh, you're mad at me, but this happened. He almost got impeached over all this bullshit.
Well, wait a second.
But it's,
She was accusing him and saying this conduct's unacceptable. She
Yeah.
could have easily turned to her husband and said, your conduct's unacceptable and I don't want to be around you either. You both repulse me. And she chose not to.
yeah,
you
I
know,
mean,
so
I'm
I
not
agree that-
defending her. I'm just saying, I don't know how you can support him being a woman. Whatever your view is on Hillary is different. I'm talking specifically about the women that are supporting Trump.
I don't think it
Wait,
is
wait,
different.
wait,
I
wait,
think
let-
history has shown that she was vicious in putting down these
But-
women and stomping out these scandals. and
Here's
it's
a
horrible.
whole
But
nother
that-
way to look at it, because I've worked in a rough trade all my life, right?
Okay?
And boys will be boys.
And
And if,
that goes back to.
Wait,
that-
no, listen to me, because boys will
Oh
be
my God,
boys.
no,
Now, let me ask you something. Do you ever hear women talk about their sexual
I agree.
conquest?
No, I'm gonna tell you, we
But
had that
there are-
conversation.
But there
But
are,
none of the women I know would, and I wouldn't be okay with women I knew doing that either. I don't think it's okay
but do you think
to-
the guys don't do it?
I'm not defending Donald. I think it's horrific to
Guys don't do
advocate
that?
sexual assault.
Talk about
It's-
their sexual conquest or their desire for another woman.
I think it's a little bit different talking about your desire for another woman and actually talking about assaulting her. There's a difference to that. And it's a very fine line, but somebody that's running for president, and he's even said, it's a good thing I'm not running for president.
Well,
And
it's-
now all this bullshit's coming out.
Yeah, but exactly, because this is something that you didn't even know he's being recorded as usual.
No, he did know.
Or did know, but
He
anyway,
did know. It was a hot mic and he knew it.
It is locker room talk, and they're sitting there bantering with each other. And I'm sorry, this is part of my problem. Everything gets taken and blown into this catastrophic thing that the sky is falling and Donald Trump's gonna run around on all fours chasing women like a dog.
Dave,
I
I love you.
I
I know,
love
but
you.
I cannot.
But that is a 50s mentality right there.
But it's true.
But-
It's
but
still,
that's
in
not
today's
okay.
world, it's still true.
I still,
All right.
I still don't get why it's okay for Bill Clinton. Then we all turn our head and nod and kind of wink and think
Now,
it's
I
all
don't, I didn't
sly.
turn my head. I didn't think that was okay either.
And the fact that
Or-
she would stay with him and not not
Well,
crack down on
I
that.
can't say what a wife should do with her marriage.
I
I
can say
can't.
that I wouldn't tolerate a rape accusation for
I
known
wouldn't
affairs.
either.
What my wife would have done to me.
I would not either. Although, but at the same time, I wasn't the first lady in the White House when that happened.
It just shows
So-
a lot
But
of
to
bad
get back to
judgment
the
on her part,
question,
too.
are the Republicans backing away from Donald from a women's rights issue or from something more Machiavellian?
I think this was the nail in the coffin. I think they wanted a good reason to do it, and now they have it. I think that they were trying to, and he kept somewhat through the whole
I kind of agree
election
with that,
process
actually.
that they kept trying to pull away, and he would say something, and they would all come back together.
Right.
But you won.
I-
You won, fair and square. It's hard to,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a primary system and you win the primary, at least
Yeah.
one thing I will say for the Republicans, and I'm not defending Republicans here, I'm not voting for Trump, there's no chance in hell. I think he's crazy and I don't want him near a nuclear bomb. But having said that, if you have an established system of how you do things. At least the Republicans did follow it, and they ended up with a shitty candidate. Whereas the Democrats admitted to cheating, had to get rid of the head of the DNC, replace her with somebody else, and they have emails going, yep, we cheated and rigged the system for Hillary.
Yeah.
I mean, that's no good.
I think this is very strategic on their part.
On the Republicans?
Yeah, if you look back at history, well, first of all, I'll start off with Donald has positioned himself as the law and order candidate, right? And if you look back at history, that whole tough on crime, law and order thing was a stratagem by the Republicans to win over the Southern white vote. Well, now they already have the Southern white vote, right? And so the Republicans are, like, they've been, if you look at their rhetoric over the last 8 years, they've been trying to shimmy back towards the center on the whole crime thing because it's alienating the fastest growing voting blocks in America, the Latinos and the African Americans. And so now here comes Donald, who won the primary fair and square, and is completely fucking this up for them. And so I see it for them, if you look at it from Paul Ryan's shoes, we got a choice. We can either accept Hillary Clinton for 4 years and have a chance still at winning some of the African American and Latino vote in the future.
Or maintaining Congress.
Right, or maintaining
Which is a
Congress.
big deal.
Yeah, or we can,
Yeah.
throw our bones behind Donald and basically bet the future on the president.
I
Or
don't
mortgage the future for the president.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's behind on at all. I think this is probably the greatest thing that happened to Republicans. I mean, for this reason, and I think this is a legitimate reason. For the last 8 years, they have been a very splintered party
Yeah.
between your more moderate,
The Walmart
guys
Republicans and the
and
Wall
your
Street
freaking
Republicans.
Tea
The,
Parties.
yeah, the,
And I think this is
the
they've all
Walmart, the Tea Party.
Yeah, but you know what? That was a perfect analogy. That was a perfect analogy.
Sure. And now I think you're finding the Democrat Party become a little more split than the Republican Party, which
Yeah,
is kind of interesting.
it really
And
has
It's
become.
flipping. I mean, Democrats under 29 years old are fleeing the party right and left because they want to vote third party.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and they said
Go
last
Gary
night.
Johnson.
if it hadn't been for that video, if it had not been for that
I
video,
related
think
to him
Trump
well this
very
weekend.
easily could have won this election.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I think he still can.
Well, I don't think there's any chance in hell.
I think he still can. I think I would.
Yeah,
surprised.
I
We were
was
watching
really
Bill
nervous.
Maher
I
the
was
other
nervous until this shit, to the video. I was like, some of my bitch might squeeze in there.
Seeing how many people were still defending him, I would not be surprised if he wins.
He was tied in a lot of battleground states, and now he's down by 10
I
points.
think
literally the
those
day
are
after
just
the
the
election.
loudest people. I mean,
I agree with you.
No, I mean
It's
it
a vocal
wasn't like
minority.
even on social media last night. Everybody was reporting that based on social media, he won the debate.
I don't think any other credible news source had that story.
They
out
all of them did. CNN reported
Well,
it.
CNN said that she won 57% to 39%. In fact, that was a median.
I'm talking about
thing.
based on they polled social media and the people that they polled on social
Yeah,
media.
and that's just
you
an
know.
organized campaign of people who are sitting there, jacking off on Facebook. I mean, big deal. But I think that it's the ones who go to the polls. And in fact, if you think about the kind of the Facebook, Twitter, social media people, I guarantee you half of them aren't registered to vote. So it doesn't matter what their opinions are. They're not going to the polls.
Well, and I know we talked about it. I mean, I hope you guys know I'm not mad at any of you for your opinion. It's just very distressing to me that
What's
women-
Like, I find it disgusting
Mm-hmm.
what he said. And in fact, that is one major reason I would never vote for him, because I think he's crazy and just a little unhinged. But I equally despise the fact that if you're going to condemn somebody for saying something, you sure as shit better condemn somebody for actually knowing that we know you did it.
Right,
And
right,
I haven't
right.
heard that.
You know what's even more sad than Donald's statement and the backlash? If you look back at all his public statements, the dude took out a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal, or was it the New York Times? I forget which. But it was an open letter to the government in the early 80s calling for the reinstatement of capital punishment for rape in response to 3 15-year-old kids who were later found falsely convicted of rape. Like, this guy was clamoring for these 3 poor kids from Harlem to be hung.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, nobody remembers that.
Was that in the 80s?
those 3 kids from Harlem remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you damn
Well,
right.
it's, I'm at
It's like
a
he is
point
crazy.
where I
He
think
is.
we really need a serious third party.
No, I've been there.
And I will call it, and I'm sure they'll come to.
But I tell you-
But basically a socialist conservative party.
Yeah, we need a.
So
we
that
need
has a basic social premise of taking care of our own, and with proper amount of tax money, but yet have conservative principles where government just doesn't take off and run rampant.
We called them Democrats before the 60s.
You know, you can call them Reagan Democrats, you can call them a lot of different things, but there's, I think, what I really think and what I've really learned by talking to a lot of people during this election is that most everybody somewhere towards the center, they're tired of this crap. They're tired of both parties. Hillary lies her ass off. I mean, there's no way you can deny that she lies her ass off. She's lied about so many things, not even funny. Trump's a buffoon.
Yep.
I mean, he's just a stumbling buffoon. He wants to lose this election. And
Well, you know, I've said. Remember, we had this conversation before, Chris. I've said I don't think he ever wanted to win
I don't
this
think he
election.
does either.
I
I've said
think
it
he got
before.
in thinking he would get knocked out, third or fourth
Get
round.
some free publicity.
Yeah, get some free publicity, go back to The Apprentice, and oh shit, I'm the last man standing.
He picked the wrong time to decide to
Yeah,
not
I honestly
bluff.
think he just wanted to win. And then he didn't want to do shit after that. I mean,
Yeah.
he would have.
No, yeah,
it's
no,
just an
that-
ego-
that's a
it's
very
an ego-
strong
It's an ego
possibility.
thing to win, and he already made a deal with his vice president that he could just run the government if he wanted to. You know,
Yeah, right.
They had the whole
like,
negotiation.
you can
Which
run
would
the
explain
foreign
why
policy,
He
domestic. I was like, wait, you
That would
give him
explain why
everything?
Pence
It kind
hasn't.
of reminds me of
Left
me
it.
running for student body president. I just wanted to win. I didn't want to do anything.
Yeah, then you just kick back and have
Well,
a beer.
I just want a chocolate milk in the cafeteria.
But it's gonna be interesting, because you have to almost assume that Hillary's gonna win the election now.
Well,
And they are the machine.
That's what Vegas is saying.
They are really
Plus
the
250.
machine. They are the
Why didn't we vote on
exuberance.
that?
Plus 250.
tell you
Why,
what.
why did we bet on that?
Because of,
I don't know that
Wait a
this
minute,
is.
Dave, wait a minute, Dave wasn't done.
Oh, sorry.
They are the machine. The Clintons are the machine. They're the definition of exuberance of government. I mean, they got all the donors. They've gone from different countries and got all their money. I mean, it's the machine.
Yeah.
And so, will the public tolerate after 4 years of this machine? Because they probably know how to govern much better than Trump does. I mean, you can't deny that because they've been in the system. But will they tolerate the machine?
They
Or will
invented.
they get tired of the machine?
No,
Well,
they invented the method of triangulation. They actually govern from the center most of the time. They just want to be popular and go whichever way the wind's blowing. And I think with a Republican Congress, which I think you'll probably keep, it would be hard for her to get a lot done.
hey,
without
gridlock's
coming
good
to
for
the center.
business.
And I love
So
that. I
they-
vote to have nothing done.
You two have
I mean,
both
I
said
love
that in
I
different
actually
ways.
like to have
You just haven't heard,
a
he says
president
it
of one
almost
party
every
and the
podcast.
Congress of the other.
I like when
Yeah,
nothing
I
gets
agree.
done.
Yeah.
Bob
I mean-
Dole and Tip O'Neill. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what you need.
I
saw
God, I miss Tip O'Neill.
Checks
And
and
he was a Democrat.
He was great.
But
So,
he was a
Bob Dole.
Southie. That guy was one badass dude. He could turn around and he had three things he could always get. I gotta get something for this party over here, I gotta get something for my party, and then I gotta get something for the constituent.
Yeah.
So these are three things I gotta put together. All
guys
right?
are-
And we're gonna do this, and he get in there and pound out that deal and make it happen.
Yeah.
Tip O'Neill was an awesome dude. And a lot of people gave him some crap because he was Democrat, but he was the
No,
best.
he and Bob Dole were a great.
Yeah, they knew how to drive that.
And they got a
Right,
lot
right.
of stuff done.
Did you guys ever hear a story about right after Jimmy Carter was elected, he had Tip O'Neill, the speaker, over for breakfast the day after the inauguration, and Jimmy Carter served black coffee and sugar cookies. And Tip O'Neill looked at the tray and he looked at Jimmy Carter. He said, "Mr. President, we won the election. Where's the bacon?
Where's the brandy?
Where's the bacon?"
Where's the bacon?
We
and
won.
probably Brandy too.
We won this one.
That's
So they
fine.
were saying last night too, that the undecideds, like, they really, I think, thought this debate may help people decide one way or another. And they said basically what this debate did was decide for the undecided that they were not going to be voting this election.
That's true. I think you're going to see record low voter turnout.
Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting election. Speaking of on the other side, we talked about Trump and the foibles going on him and the Republican side, but
Foibles.
I'm foibles.
The follies.
I'm
The follies and foibles.
I am getting really close to being really fucking tired of WikiLeaks. I don't know. Don't get me wrong. It's not as if they have not exposed things that the American public should know or shouldn't know, but I'm like, at some point, I wonder what gives you the right to do this and continually do this and get away with it and and stay your ass in non-extradition countries so you don't get prosecuted for it. And I say that because they did another release of more emails from Hillary and excerpts of her speeches that she had been paid
The
for.
Wall Street speech.
Yeah, the Wall Street speeches. And I guess the one thing that everybody's kind of been clamoring on to was in one of the speeches she mentioned that there is a legitimate reason to have a policy position and a personal position. And so people are like, well, isn't that being two-faced?
Her explanation yesterday was horrible.
You know what? Her explanation was bad. I'll give you that. But I fully understand why. For example,
She compared herself to Abraham Lincoln.
well, that's what I said. Her explanation was horrible.
That's ridiculous.
Most of them are.
But I will say this. I fully understand why you have a personal and a policy position that may be different. What I think personally means little when the governing of the entire nation is at stake, because I don't have an opinion one way or another, but let's say I don't like gay people. And from a policy standpoint, that shouldn't mean shit. Like my personal opinion about it. Is it legal to do this or to do that?
Nah, it depends on how white people elected you. Did they elect you based on the principles that you espoused that you were going to defend, and were those principles honest or were they not? Or are you one of those people who believes I have to do what's right for my constituency regardless of my own personal belief?
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people get in trouble. It's a huge philosophical argument, and one reason democracy kind of sucks a little bit, to be perfectly honest. Is it can go both ways. In fact, Socrates said it is the worst form of government of all time, and at times he's right. Like the will of the people just blows in the wind. It changes constantly.
It changes constantly.
So it's not based on right and wrong. It's just a matter of what people are thinking and when they reelected.
And I think, and I actually have had this conversation with Lane before. I think it doesn't bother me personally because I'm from Chicago, and as you know. Politics in Chicago.
The Daily Machine was the Daily Machine. And that's like the Clinton machine. They're very similar.
So I'm so used to machine politics and knowing the machine actually can get shit done.
Exactly.
Because I've seen it happen all my life in Chicago. But if the machine's broken or the machine's
too corrupt.
It can destroy everything in its path. And that's so, but I guess my issue is I've never had an issue with the machine because of where I'm from. I think if I was born somewhere else and grew up with a different kind of form of local government, it probably would really bother me.
I think this city is a classic example of a city that overreacted so massively to one crime machine, which actually got a lot of stuff done. I mean, in fact, the buildings that we're sitting in now were all built by Pendergast. And once 1940 hit and he got out of jail but couldn't practice politics anymore, and Democratic machine went downhill, the city went to shit. We've made nothing but bad decisions since then. And maybe some of them were effects at the time. People want to move suburbs, those kinds of things. But a lot of them were, no, they didn't enforce keeping up a basic infrastructure. There was a million things that went wrong.
Yeah.
And now you have a city that's, seen its heyday. We were a number 12 city in the United States, and now we're number 31.
31, right.
We,
So, I mean, it's sad.
We have a garment district museum in one of our buildings, and the people that run that were actually alive and when this was still the garment district.
With Nellie Don and all those
And they
people.
it's very interesting to sit and listen to them. They've had lunches with us for them, and that was when the downtown airport was the only airport.
I flew into downtown
And-
airport as a kid.
Yeah, and how much different and how just great the city was then. Yes, there probably was a lot of death, a lot of things that people don't like to think about, but it was prospering.
You know what's always, it's always
Music
funny
scene
to-
was outstanding.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, what's always funny to me is, history tends to remember the good times and the complete tragedies.
Best and worst of times.
Yeah, but they don't. But all the day to
What's
day.
Your
that
average
from?
Tuesday.
The best
Yeah, the day to day
Is that Grapes
shit.
of Wrath?
They just don't
Wasn't
remember.
that how it started?
Best of times is the
Oh,
worst
worst
of
of
times.
times?
Grapes of Wrath, right?
Yeah, Charles Dickens.
Tales of Two
Oh,
Cities.
okay.
Tales of Two Cities, yeah. But I always think about that because
I've read so many of them.
I think about
Cut me off.
He's telling cut me off.
I think about
I knew
Kansas
it was
City.
some novel that I had to read in high school.
I think about Kansas City and St. Louis.
Well, Brian, you live downtown,
Gary,
right?
Indiana. I
Sure.
think about some of these cities that had tremendous heydays, and now they're just shells of themselves. And
Look at Detroit.
I'm curious.
Detroit,
Look at
Cleveland,
Detroit.
yeah.
I'm curious about Brian's opinion though, because
Pittsburgh.
Brian's living downtown now. He's young. You're seeing the resurgence of what this area is. Do you feel you're living in a city that's really on a strong upturn, or you feel they're still kind of staggering around even though they're trying to get
Keep
things
sly as the mayor.
Well, the city's relatively new to me anyway because I grew up in a small town. But all the shops are closed at like 6 o'clock, and that makes it a little tough to think I could go outside and do something. I'm used to at least a college town anyway. I visited Chicago recently for the first time, and that was a very different world. And
Now, downtown closes early.
Yeah, exactly.
They close down at like 7 o'clock.
That's what I say in the West
But
Side,
there's
yeah,
so
retail,
much
it's
more
just
to do.
Restaurants and bars.
Yeah, 7 or 8 actually downtown is shut down, but the rest of the city is humming.
Out through the West Loop, I mean, there's
Oh
nothing
yeah,
going on.
absolutely.
The restaurants and bars kick ass, but there's no place to buy
I think-
clothes or anything
I think
like
that's
that.
what we've talked about too, though. There's nothing you can't even go to a store and buy things for your apartment down here. And they're building so many apartments down here, and you have to go to a suburb to shop.
well, that was going to be my next
Or
point.
the
is that,
plaza.
Or you could buy craft furniture, or you could do any of those things. So
Amazon.
there's a ton of stores. And I think the world has changed. I mean, let's be honest.
And IKEA's just down the road.
This is true.
Oh my god.
But that's still a
Unbearable
suburb.
crap to me.
I'm just telling you, that's still a suburb.
Yeah, that's out in missions. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they are building, probably overbuilding all of these lofts and everything. But we're getting a lot more people down, and they're spending more time outside.
One thing that they are doing though is they're starting to do, I don't remember the official term for it, you guys might know. It's like the building may have tenants and
Mixed use.
offices
Yeah.
and department store type things or food or whatever. So
Mixed
they're,
use
instead of saying this building is going to be apartments, they're doing multiple use for it.
Which is weird because there's a 98% occupancy rate. You'd make a killing if you just kept building apartments. I mean, you could build forever down here and people would still come.
They would come. They would come. I mean, it's actually kind of cool. You know, a lot of these buildings are so old. It's the only thing you can do with them is turn them into lofts.
Well, most of them are on the historic registry, so that is all. You can't change the outside of them at all.
Yeah, the facade has to stay, but a lot of them you could actually rehab fairly nicely. The one at 20th and Main that's across from the Rieger, that was the old Hotel Midwest, that empty lot. That's going to be a hotel and apartment that wraps around with that restaurant and bar right on that corner.
That'll be
nice.
awesome.
Well, the Savoy over here, they're gonna turn
Savoy's
around.
there, they're gonna.
Well, and it had, the Savoy actually had apartments above it
Yeah.
still.
I can't
Until
even
it caught on
change my
fire.
shades. They have to stay the same color.
Oh,
I
wow.
can't put
You
anything
can't put
in the
it-
window.
Oh.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You know why?
Sure.
You paint the inside different color, they'll never know.
I'm sure your mom.
Just say.
I'm sure your mom is upset about that.
Very. But
Did you just find that out?
She, you know, she's called me 3 times this week to go downstairs and ask them if I can hang curtains
Oh.
inside the apartment. And I refuse to go do that.
Right,
I'm
right,
gonna go ask if they'll hang my curtains for me.
Well, the problem is,
Will you hang my curtains?
your problem is you can hang the curtains probably, but then you have to restore the place back to the way you found it.
On the inside, you can do anything you want. On the
Yeah.
facade, you can't do anything.
But
Well, his building
I'll
isn't
have
historic,
to pay for any, like, if they consider it damage, even if the.
No, well, that's every
curtains
part.
weren't.
Yeah, that's, well, yeah, that's.
That's
yeah.
universal. That's
Yeah.
not being.
Back to your
That is a
WikiLeaks question.
Yes.
I'm tired of WikiLeaks because we've had this conversation, we've talked about it this morning.
Yes.
I feel like if you're really doing what they say they're doing and informing the public,
Yes.
then why are you slowly releasing information? If you have it, release it. I think that there's still some, like, it's not fully like, oh, you're just such this good
Yeah.
entity. And
Maybe they're
Thank you
playing,
so much.
to use Lane's word,
They're playing the
it feels
game.
a little
But
clandestine.
of course, why wouldn't
Yeah.
you? If you're trying to promote your point of view and your view of the world. And
What
all
is
that
their
stuff,
point
why
of
would-
view, though? I mean,
think
they're living in a country that they really don't have any rights to say what we do over here.
oh,
Well, they-
whatever we
they
do
did.
here affects literally.
the entire world,
fair.
and
Well, then I would think they would not want Donald Trump in office, and that's what they're trying to do, basically.
Yeah.
They just want to stir the pot.
Yeah,
They do.
you know
They
what?
do.
You know what? WikiLeaks does kind of remind me of in the Dark Knight
I love watching these fucking
when
fight.
when they're talking about the Joker and he was like, you know, well, what did you do? Batman was asking Alfred, what did you do to catch that bandit that was out in the forest stealing jewels? And he said eventually we just had to burn the whole forest down. It was just like, because some men just want to see it all burn. And that's kind of how I'm beginning to feel about WikiLeaks.
All right.
Like they kind of just want to see the whole structure crumble, which you know, and
Didn't we talk
and me personally, just you know, me personally being a black American male, I'm a little afraid of anarchy because I don't think that's
Why?
gonna end well for me. You know, it's kind of like we were
It won't
watching.
do any good for
Timeless.
him.
Like we were watching
Anybody
this new show, Timeless.
Yeah.
And the guy who pilots the time machine is a black guy, and he's like, "Look, I don't want to do that." And they were like, "But you need to do it. You need to do it." And he was like, "Look, we're going back in American history. There's literally no time that's gonna be great for me. So like, I don't want to go. I don't want to do it." And so it was just really. And that's kind of how I feel about anarchy. And
I actually think there's a different side of that, which is I think you will see Americans kind of unite around it if it gets a little too far. I have a feeling, my own humble feeling, and not even gonna ask Lane because he probably knows a hell of a lot more about than I do, but I would say it feels slightly more organized than it is giving the impression of being.
yes.
And I think you're starting to see the same players supporting all these different groups, and it's a little bit more concentrated than that. People say everything's fractional right now. I think it's far less fractional than people ever want to
Well,
believe it
you
is.
you hear what the media wants you to hear.
No, I
you
think
hear
Putin
what
is
people.
controlling
Yeah.
most of these things and funding them and organizing them.
I think
and
we
saying,
get
"You
along
do
a
this,
lot
you do
better
that."
than they think we
Than
do.
they think.
I think there's more
Absolutely.
decent people in this world than
I mean,
anyone gives us credit for.
don't get me
In the
wrong.
United States,
You know,
I don't know
don't
about
get me
the rest of
wrong.
the world.
I know that there are shitty people, I know that racism is real and it exists and all of that. But I will say
Small minority.
that I think that
Smaller,
I think that you know, like you were saying, I think as these fractions shrink, they get louder and louder because they know they're shrinking. You know, and
I don't think they're shrinking at all. I think they're very well organized, far more organized and interconnected than people think they are. And I don't think they're shrinking in the slightest. And it'll be interesting to see what the next major 2001 type event is going to be. And if you remember, the country was 98% united when that happened.
this is true.
You know, and I think it's something like that
Everybody
appeals
in
to
their
a higher
father was
purpose.
It was
American
the
flag.
war, the prolonged war that caused the fraction.
The 98% of the American public who supported it, who then turned their back on it, like we always do as Americans,
Yeah.
which is our
Yeah, well,
history.
it's like
Is that how, did they do that with Vietnam? Like, we always
Yeah.
hear about all
Vietnam
the
was
protests.
exceptionally popular up until we lost the Tet Offensive, and we didn't even lose the Tet Offensive, we actually won it. And then beyond that, what people never ever want to think about is they go, World War II, greatest generation of all time, blah, 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 blah. In fact, almost 50% of Americans in 1943 wanted to sue for peace at any cost with Germany. They just wanted out of the war. You know, so that's not as great as I think most people remember. I mean, it's not just all rosy-colored glasses. Like, in fact, you had Charles Lindbergh leading the charge, one of the biggest a-holes of all time. You know, he was a horrible, horrible person and is regarded as a national hero. And some senators are like, nah, you're a
Lane's
complete
like
jackass.
having bad memories right there, it looked like.
But you studied this. I know you
Yeah.
did. I mean, it's
Well, you would have
complete
had
fact.
to, wouldn't you? Yeah.
So it's. I mean, I'm not saying anything wrong about it. That was exactly how it went down.
All I
It's,
know is
horrendous.
when I'm out in public or any place, it doesn't matter what race of person I talk to. I can strike a conversation with most of them, and if I can get them talking to me, we're generally having a laugh before long.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And those
Generally.
those barriers
Yeah.
come down real fast.
Yeah.
And all of
Yeah.
a sudden we find there's common ground, we got something going
Yeah.
on, there's always something to talk about,
Yeah.
there's always something we're gonna disagree about.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it
But we
before.
can sit there and have a conversation with anybody if you just reach out and talk to people.
Yeah, I definitely have said it before. I really do believe that most people want the same things. How we plan to go about getting them, that's where we differ. You know, I think everybody wants, you know, a job with a decent wage, and they want a safe community for their families, and they want, you know, I think there's certain things everybody wants, but, you know, but how we view getting them may be different. But, like you say, one-on-one, you can say, yeah, I can
The
sit down
goals are
with
very
just about
similar in
anybody.
some ways, yeah.
Just about anybody.
I've said it
I
1,000
I don't know if I could, because, I mean, well, you saw that whole argument with that guy that told me I
Oh,
was
the Facebook.
low informed.
Yeah, the Facebook guy, yeah, that was pretty funny. There was a guy, a friend of hers,
No, my cousin.
oh, excuse me.
But I am okay having conversations and disagreeing with people in this room. I don't know if I would fan that out too much further.
I mean, I've said this a million times on the show, and I truly believe it. I find the biggest problem with this country is that you can't talk about race without being racist. Yeah, and I think there's an enormous difference. I think there are all kinds of things that are legitimate problems all the way across the board, and you can discuss them without being racist or homophobic or anything else. There's just things to talk about. And as soon as one thing comes out that somebody doesn't like, you immediately go to the lowest common denominator and quickly, then it's done.
Then it's-
And it
It's
kinda
just
sucks.
sad to me that, I mean, like this conversation, they posted something about, I'm more okay with what Trump says than what Hillary has done. And all I said was, what has been proven? It was not like, you're stupid, you know, it was a simple question, and it immediately went into your head's in the sand, you're a low informed person, and I was like, look, I asked a legitimate question of you. What has been proven? And if you can't defend your candidate without insulting me, when I said nothing that made them think I was for Hillary or against Trump, then you have a problem.
Well, I had the
So
same
it was-
I had the same argument with DW, my best friend, who has been Hillary. He voted for Hillary in 2008. I mean, he goes way back with Hillary.
I did too, actually.
And so,
Get out.
you know,
Go away.
we got into it pretty good. And we ended up laughing at them, which we always do. Because we were getting way too intense. Then I said, well, how many people she killed off? And he went dead silent. Because I knew it pissed him off at that point. It's when I was able to just start laughing.
As you're smiling.
Yeah, I just started laughing at that
Well,
point.
but
because,
you know-
because I had to end it because we tend, and you know DW well enough now to know a little bit of what I'm talking about. We aren't afraid to argue politics.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is we're still brothers.
Yeah,
Well, I
well,
think-
and I think
And,
that's
and, we,
good,
and,
but you
and
don't
we can
need,
come out
if
of it
you-
and okay with it.
But if you don't have a response, your first reaction shouldn't be to insult the person you're talking to. Like, to me, it's like, you know,
Well-
and as soon as I called him on that, he was like, oh, I'm not trying to insult you. And then he insulted me again.
This is 20 minutes. This is 20 minutes into the argument,
You're
so
right.
we have to find our ways out, and that's
Yeah.
what DW and I do.
I want to add a
Yeah,
piece
yeah.
of that is you can't have those conversations not in person.
I would agree.
If
So
you're on
I
social
was,
media, that
I
right
was
there.
actually replying to my cousin, who I know. But somebody else decided that they needed to be involved. And I said, since this is not my post, I'm stopping this conversation. If you would like to continue it, you can message me. And then he continued to insult
Yeah.
me. So I was like, you know what? I'm done.
But I agree with Brian. You gotta be having that conversation, either in person or on the phone.
Yeah.
Then don't post it on Facebook
But you
for
can't
people to
post it on
reply
Facebook.
to.
I think that's totally wrong.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
I-
I wouldn't
What are you
reply.
doing?
I would not even. There's things I've seen on there and that would just piss me off. And
Oh, no.
I will not
I
reply.
actually stopped following somebody last night because of the stupidity that they were
Well,
posting.
and I'm not talking about just
And-
politics. I could talk about anything that someone might post.
Yeah, no,
And
that's
I will,
what- yeah.
But I will not have a conversation about any of that stuff because, first of all, maybe they're joking, maybe they aren't. Because maybe I find it funny and I could comment on it and they were actually serious. And then suddenly I've pissed them off. And it's, unless you can kind of see how they're taking it, whatever you write, they're going to project how they're feeling and put that tone across whatever you say.
Well, and I guess my point was I was talking to my cousin and somebody else felt the need to talk to me.
So my point is about Facebook though is that it's not a one-on-one conversation, right?
Lane's over this.
Is that true? And I'm not any good at Facebook, so I don't do it, my wife
I'm
does.
sorry, I missed your question.
Okay. On Facebook, it's not a one-on-one conversation.
I guess there's a
Other
little bit of
people can
etiquette
jump in.
with it. Like if you put somebody's name into the comment, that you kind of know
But it's still,
that you're, yes,
but
they can read
everybody's
it.
still right there listening to it.
Yeah.
This is
yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah.
Anybody
And
can
then-
read it.
It's more or less public.
That's totally
Yeah.
uncool, because you're putting your opinion out there. You're also turning around and exposing yourself, in my opinion, to employers or people that
Yeah.
can see what your opinion is that may not have your opinion. I don't think it's any of their effing business.
So it could be employers,
Well,
but
it
it
is
could also
once
be
you write it
people
down.
that report to you.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I
I
think,
mean, it becomes their business.
I think
once you
that's
write it down.
entirely a bad idea. I think if you wanna have a opposite, there's two things DW and I have always done. Sometimes we have to email each other. Because I see something on Facebook and I go, what the hell did you post that for? Well, I'm not gonna, my wife shows me, cause I don't look at it, my wife has to show me all of it. I'm gonna email him and go, wait a minute, what the hell was that? And
As
then I know
Well,
he's
and
gonna call me,
I tell
and then we
people,
can have our conversation about what the hell was that.
Right.
As someone who's also friends with DW on Facebook, I think it's funny that you do that because I've seen some of the things he posts and wonder what your opinion was of it. Just kind of like sitting back.
It's not good.
I
We
guess
will have our arguments.
my thing though is, I'm very tolerant of other people's opinions. And I can just as easily, instead of arguing with you, because you have the right to your opinion.
I've never
I
had you
can-
argue with me
You
before.
don't
I
have
can-
the right to a stupid opinion. You really
You know
don't.
what?
I mean,
It
you
may be
just don't.
stupid
It's
to you or
difficult
me.
for me to
It may
just
be
let you
stupid
have
to
a
you
dumb
or me, but
opinion.
it's not stupid to them.
It's-
You don't have
it's
the
that
right-
different.
You don't have the right to be factually incorrect. You don't have the right to say something stupid.
But you know what? I'm not gonna tell somebody you're stupid.
I'm not
I-
arguing a legal right.
I-
I'm arguing just.
I
am.
Yeah.
My thing is,
don't
I
do
can
well
just
with
as easily unfollow
It's
you
just-
or unfriend you. If I
gotta
don't
be
like
there.
it, I don't have to argue with
But I'll
somebody
tell you what's
that
funny about this country
is a low-informed
is that
voter.
We advocate discourse all the time and talking and starting
As long
conversations.
as they don't
and-
argue with you, they don't disagree with you. Not you just,
No, I think that's one of the biggest hypocritical things about this country is everybody goes, every time something happens, a cop shoots a kid, blah, 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 whatever the case is, the first thing people say is, it's time to start a national conversation. Let's get a national conversation going right now, blah, blah, blah. And in fact, nobody really wants to talk about this shit because it just ends up in fights all the
Generally, you
time.
don't know what you're talking about because you don't have the facts and the figures.
But nobody is sure what all the facts and figures are, you know, it's just, when somebody's blatantly wrong, I'm like, okay, that was pretty
I was
stupid.
watching
and
PolitiFacts
alright,
last
but-
night and it was just blowing up.
Yeah, I mean, it's
On the
interesting.
campaign, before we get all the way off of that,
Yeah.
I did like the last question,
Which was
which was,
what?
hey, basically,
something
do
nice
either of you
that
like
you
anything
respect.
about the other
Anything
person?
about the other person?
You know, I don't like it. I wish I just would have said no. Actually, I'm
Be
just,
honest?
I'm truly disgusted
gonna be
by
honest,
him as a
like-
human being, and she as
I don't
as a
like you, you don't like
professional
me.
criminal.
Fine.
So yeah, I mean, just
Well,
go
and I think that
They
goes
both-
back
they
to
both did
people are
something.
tired of negative campaigning because it starts with them and it just trickles down
This
to.
country is built on negative.
Well, they both
campaigning,
kinda
and
laughed.
It's been that way since literally the
Yeah.
first one,
I'm sure it was very
and it's gonna
unexpected.
go on.
Okay.
Alright, okay, so, we have
That was
spent.
enlightening. That was
Yeah.
in a lot of different places.
Yeah, we have spent way more time on that particular topic than I thought we were going to, and that's okay. But I do want to get to the next topic that I had, which was Pimp Down. Pimp Down. The CEO of Backpage was arrested and charged himself with pimping.
I'm sorry, what is Backpage?
Yeah, Rio, you got to
misinformed
get
about
some
that.
definition
Okay,
for
so-
us far outers there.
So Backpage basically is a service that allows.
It's like Craigslist.
Yeah, it's
Lord.
it's Craigslist
What's
for
bent.
it's Craigslist for hookers, basically.
What's bent? Oh,
It's a
this.
what list for
It's
hookers?
basically
Yeah.
Craigslist for hookers. That's what Backpage
That's
is.
not entirely true. They have other listings.
Now they do have other listings, but the reason that
Of what,
most
Lane, of
I'm just
what?
playing devil's advocate.
I mean, yeah, I suppose they do have like massage listings.
Oh, Lord.
but yeah.
With happy endings?
Hey,
Listings
massages
for
are good
lawn
things.
care.
They are.
As long as
They're
you don't
very
have
good
happy
things.
endings, they're all right.
yeah, so I saw that and I thought that
You
was
could sell a desk on Backpage.
I suppose that you could, but they would.
You might want to sanitize
But
it,
they
I'm
would. They
guessing.
would. But they would assume that a hooker would deliver it. That's the problem.
Shit.
That's the problem. That's the problem with Backpage.
Why
so,
do they call it Backpage?
I don't know why it's called Backpage, but I do know.
It's interesting.
Well, think
Well,
about it.
technically,
It's on the back page. You don't
I-
need it. It's stuff that most people aren't going to need to know about.
Think of the page, think about
Yeah,
the
yeah,
class
yeah.
sizes.
It's
yeah.
kind of like the dark
Yeah.
internet,
Alright.
you know. It's a little bit
See,
back
this
there.
is me, like, I'm like, hookers, what?
See,
clever
here's
guy.
the thing. He was charged on conspiracy to commit pimping
yes.
and actual felony pimping.
Well,
Right?
which
But
is hilarious. to
But
me.
guys,
Felony
guys,
pimping.
you have there's two parts to a crime. You have to satisfy these two conditions to get a conviction.
True.
The actus reus, you need to prove the criminal act happened, and the mens rea, the person did it with criminal intent.
Right.
Yes.
Right? What I'm getting at is, did he directly accept money for some hooker to perform services?
Well, and that's not always the case. So take for example, killing somebody in a driving accident.
No,
There's various levels.
Sure.
So it's did
okay.
what you did, was it so irresponsible that you should have known?
Well, that's
for
abetting.
example?
That's abetting.
Right,
Aiding
right.
and abetting. What I'm getting at is he was charged with the actual act.
His particular crime
Right.
was he knew with full forethought.
Right.
that he
No,
wouldn't
that's
get
his
it.
crime. So
Yeah,
it's gonna
absolutely.
get pled down. He'll be convicted of aiding and abetting
Right,
and
right.
conspiracy to pimp.
Right.
And he'll do 2 years in the California pen, and you'll get out with more contacts.
But
Well,
if it's,
wait. Now,
What are you in for? Pimping?
now you gotta wait a second.
My man.
I'm an old guy here, and I was a single man. I was working in the oil field, and I had a lot of money. So if you spend a lot of time offshore, like 5-6 weeks, and you're 21, 22 years old, it's a quick thing to come in and see the madam.
True.
And pick your lady, get your action, go out and drink.
True enough.
Now, I always never really had a problem with that myself. Now,
Personally, I
you
just
know,
think they
if
should
people are
legalize
doing
that
what they're
and
gonna
weed
do,
and
that's
get
their
on with
type of thing, you know, I have trouble condemning him for pimping.
yeah, like I'm not really.
the
See,
oldest
okay.
profession in the world.
Well, first of all, it's the oldest profession
only
in the
honest
world for a reason.
Exactly.
Look, there's money for a service. Everybody knows what the fuck the service is, and she gives you a flat rate and says, "Hey, this is what it's gonna cost you." Now, what bothers me isn't that there are hookers out there hooking.
That'd be a nice female what they're
Yeah,
doing.
the hookers out there hooking because that has always happened, and what has happened is a lot of the hookers don't need actual pimps anymore because of the internet.
Right.
So they can say, hey, these
The
are all
internet's
my
a pimp.
these are all my parameters of what I'm willing to do or not do, or where I'm willing to go or not go, and here's what I'm charging. And you, the person who's clicking on it, I think you're more at fault than the guy running the website.
I will say I bought a lot of dinners for a lot of ladies. I don't necessarily see where the line in the sand is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Guys, there's really good case law here, and without getting into geeking out on it, the premise of the case, not the premise, but the conclusion of the case is that website publishers are not responsible for the content added by a third party.
except for they do
Right.
have an obligation to remove it if they know that it's illegal.
Right.
And
Where's he
that's-
based out of?
California.
Oh,
No,
well,
what this
then,
is, it's an attorney general from California trying to score political points because she's running for Senate.
So it's a state offense or a federal offense?
State offense.
If it's state, then it'll walk your right on 2 years. If it's federal, it will not.
No.
So that would be a major problem.
I mean, personally, look, I've known some actual pimps. So, to me, this guy is not a pimp. Like he's a dude who runs a website.
Right.
Like
He's an e-pimp.
Yeah, right. Look,
E-pimp.
yeah, right. He's e-pimping, and that's a very different thing. Cause I've known dudes.
Or would it be D-pimp? Digital.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
I pimp.
Yeah.
I sponsor.
I pimp.
Steve Jobs.
I think we've come up with another business. I pimp. Look, at the end of the day,
It's a robot.
I've known some real pimps, and the real pimps are like, hey bitch, get over yourself. It's a client in there. This dude runs a website, and yes, I think he definitely knew what types of ads are being ran on his site, and so therefore,
But it's why I'm surprised it's not a federal crime.
Yeah.
At that point, because then that is interstate commerce, which would get you in a lot of trouble. That's the definition of a
Yeah.
federal crime at that point, which I think makes it interesting.
but you think it's just,
Unless the servers were all based in California and that's where the business is being run, that would be a completely different thing. The law of the internet is all screwed up. Like,
Yeah.
where does a federal offense start? Where does a
Right,
state
right,
offense
right,
start? Who knows?
and
Because you can access it all over the world.
you think it's because he's based in California that it's just a state? I mean, not,
Well, he's charged in
Like,
the state.
He's
They
charging
can
the
pr-
state,
yeah.
Right.
but that's federal interstate commerce if he was actually planning on doing that and
Yeah.
taking the money.
and
so.
and they have,
The internet. Well, I mean,
if
they
I'm
can
not
go after
mistaken, they
people
have
from-
shut Backpage down.
But California's kind of a state, and you lived out there most of your young life in particular. It's kind of a live and let live state, right?
Depends on which side you're on.
I was saying, where you live
honestly.
in
In
California?
the valley is much more conservative,
Yeah.
and on the coast is much more liberal, let them live, right?
Yeah.
So it has that that conundrum between the two of them, correct?
Sure.
And that's what it boils down to.
No, you have a Democratic Senate candidate that's trying to pander to the Walmart Republicans to lock up her Senate seat. That's exactly what's going on here. The faster we marginalize the Walmart Republicans, the happier society's going to be.
I really like that.
People forget Prop
Walmart
48.
Republicans.
I mean, California voted constitutionally to not allow gay marriage.
Yeah.
There are large swaths of California that are hyper-Republican, especially when you get outside of the 3 very large cities. It is very, very red, you know, and it just happens to be the population centers vote Democratic. So,
Interesting.
You've got a minute and a half.
Interesting.
think of all the farmers. You get the Bakersfield, you
Very
go up. I
interesting.
mean, it gets very, very, very
Over
Republican.
half the nation's produce is grown in the Central Valley of California. It's just, and what kills me is these same, red voters that are all up in arms about illegals. It's like, guys, your economy is going to come crashing down. You have to pay those illegals union wage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a
I
question.
mean, they
You are
they
the
do
dumbest people in the
everything.
world,
Don't-
Walmart Republicans.
Building houses
Think of how many
to-
farm subsidies are getting right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to vote against that.
Let me ask you a question.
I take it too.
With the urban, this goes back to our political discussion, just for a curiosity question. Do you believe that the urbanization of America, that the urban centers now control the vote over the rural areas?
No, not at all. Look at Missouri.
No.
Missouri is a classic example of a state that used to be very democratic and has recently switched in the last 3
Our
elections.
founding fathers addressed that problem by only assigning 2 Senate seats per state,
Right.
and then basing congressional seats on the census.
Yep.
So that, for that very reason, the rural areas will never be dominated by the urban area.
And this was
It
Thomas
just seems
Jefferson's
like you
biggest
see more
argument.
and more of it as we've gotten into recent elections. Kinda interesting.
I think you've seen.
Sorry, Rio, I didn't
No,
mean
you're
to
good.
I
bounce
honestly
back,
think
but
you've seen it go the other
but
way.
after all that, I kinda, brought
Yeah.
something in when
You've
we were
seen
talking
what
about
go the other way?
California.
Up until 2004, Missouri was the bellwether state, had not incorrectly picked a president in over 50 years. It was why we had all the political ads. I mean, it was a major fight. You had 2 large urban areas on each side of the state, and in the middle was a bunch of farmers. And now it's fairly solidly red most of the time.
Most of the time.
And it is changed completely.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kansas City and St. Louis may be fairly blue, but the rest of the state is super red.
What about
Super
this?
red, super
So take
red.
Kansas, super red state, which I think most people would agree, very Republican.
Yeah,
Elected Sebelius twice in the last, 20 years to
Yeah.
be governor.
yeah.
Because
And
they
she
thought
a
she was the
hardcore
best
Dem-
candidate.
She was
Yeah.
hardcore what?
She was a hardcore Democrat.
Hardcore Democrat.
And in fact, she was in charge of implementing Obamacare. Like, she was that Democratic, so,
Yeah.
You
It's
never
true.
know.
She was that what? What did
That
Well, I
Democratic.
gotta admit, in this election in Missouri, I can't vote for Greens. I'm gonna vote for Costa. Because I think Costa can get things done. So, you wouldn't think that of me, would you?
No, no,
Wow.
no.
But I will vote for Costa.
Yeah,
Lane
mine,
said
mine,
no.
mine kind of blown.
That'll just drop about 30.
He has a better chance
Yeah,
at
of
governing
actually
over
getting-
Greens,
of actually
just like
getting
Hillary and Trump.
Of actually getting things done, yeah. All right, which brings us to, I was going to, but we spent quite a bit of time talking about, quite a bit of time talking about Donald and Hillary. So I'm actually gonna skip the debate talk, and
we
I'm
already
gonna.
did. We're fine.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, because it kind of tied into some earlier stuff, and I want to get to the
I did
last.
listen to that podcast and it was awesome.
I would say this, without
6:45.
any discussion.
Yes.
On a
6:45.
one-liner, what did most people think was the most fascinating part of the debate, real quick?
For me, it was watching just the temperamental sways of the candidates. I mean, because I think Donald came out calm. He got agitated fast, and then it just went downhill on roller skates. It was just wow. But I will give Hillary, because I said this on the first debate, all she has to do is not really react to whatever the hell he's saying. Like, if she can just kind of smile through it, she might have this election. And I think whoever her debate coaches are told her exactly that, because that's what she's basically been doing. Just smiling through it and like, oh, Donald, you know, because...
She's at control. She's at control of herself for the most part.
Well,
Yeah.
not only that, they used to be friends.
Yeah, at one point...
Well, I think they probably still are. In fact, that may be the whole play.
Maybe.
That may
What
be
about
the
you, Lynn?
that may be the Shakespearean play in the whole thing.
Maybe.
Yeah, what do you think, Lane?
I don't know what to think. I just
That's a legitimate
in
answer.
in a country like ours, this is our choice.
Yeah, I'm all about that, Lane.
Which
I'm
is
with you
exactly what I
100%
said.
on
I'm
that.
like, this is the
It's
country we live in.
ridiculous.
This is where we are. This is who
They're
we get
both
to pick.
criminals and they're both clowns. I just can't get behind either.
I think what fascinated me about the debate, and it was the first one too, I don't remember, I honestly do not remember if Hillary did it, but I know Donald did both times. Actually contradicted, said that the moderators didn't say something that they, or asked something that they actually had already asked, and got mad at them for moderating. But I do have to admit, Martha Raddatz,
Yeah.
when she started she almost started debating Trump, and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, she got
This
radical.
is not
with it.
okay. Like,
I did see that.
she
She got a little bit out there.
You're like,
yeah.
well, slow down.
I'm like, you
slow
need
down.
to be a moderator and not a reporter.
Exactly.
What did you think was the most interesting part, Brian?
I mean, it's the same. First of all, I felt like no one ever answered any of the questions. That
No,
were
they
asked
didn't.
at all. Which I guess you kind of come to expect. But they did. Again, that's why I really liked that last question, is because they both actually did answer it. Not with probably an honest answer, like you said. Nope, there's nothing I like about this person, which would have been pretty awesome, actually. But I thought Hillary, she came out and said, Donald has good kids, and I think that that's awesome. And then Donald's response to that was, "Oh, she's probably just."
I don't know if that was supposed to be a compliment.
Yeah, a compliment, insult, and I didn't like that because it was clearly a compliment. I mean,
Yeah.
not at all. And so it's just you see that, and then to me it just makes it. I'm tired of it, and to me, I just wanted to watch the debate so I can be excited that they're going to do the bad lip reading video again. I don't know if you saw that from the first one.
Did you see the one they did where they were pushing each other? Did you see that?
No.
The first one, they were breathing fire on each other.
That's fine.
This one was,
Yeah, of course.
But it's you have bad and worse is what I see out there.
Yeah.
Is there a moment that stuck with you?
What's that?
Is there a moment that stuck with you in the debate?
I can't get over the one where, and as soon as I turned in from Sunday Night Football, to where she was banging on me about law and order, he said, "Yeah, you'd be in jail if I was president," and it was right or wrong. It was a classic line that had to be said.
Yeah, she said what she said.
I
She's
mean,
like,
she
it's a-
set herself up. I'm all about, being from the East Coast, you're all about waiting for the bada bing. Somebody sets themselves up, you jump on them. And Trump is East Coast, he's New York. And you gotta understand the bada bing. Because he bada binged her right there. I mean, she set him up and boom, he hit her. And it was just a great line. I couldn't watch much of the debate. I just found it sickening. It was just foul. Neither one of them are people that I can really handle. And I just can't bring myself to sit there and watch the thing through. My wife left the room.
I'm
she
surprised I
just,
didn't have it.
I got my wife back though. I'm glad she left the room. At least she was in the house and I'm in Florida
I think a lot of people.
during the hurricane. But
Right.
it's just, jeez, it's so hard to watch these two idiots up there talking when they both have so major issues.
What about you?
I just can't wrap myself around them, and I gotta admit, I've been beating this around all day long. Can I vote? Can I vote?
Yeah.
I don't know that I can vote.
That's
I don't
really
know that I can
surprising to
be
hear
conscious
you
vote.
say
I can't
that.
vote for the Green candidate. I can't vote for Gary Johnson, even though I kinda like him. Especially after this weekend. And, you know, I don't know that I can vote. And I've always voted. And I really, really don't know that I can vote in good conscience. And that's a very disturbing thing to me. It's a very, very disturbing thing to me that I can pick a candidate and go with them. And I have voted. I voted for Bill Clinton one time. You know, I am very much of probably an independent voter more than anything. And I don't think I can vote. And that
What
hurts
about-
me.
What
That
about,
hurts me a lot.
That's literally the exact same thing.
It
I was
hurts,
gonna say,
it hurts my heart for my country.
I've never in my life not voted since I've been able to vote, and I love politics more than anything. And this is the first time in my life I have never wanted to see any of these people hold public office. I think she would sell the country for $10 to the Clinton Foundation, and he would set off a nuclear bomb somewhere. And I'm like, no.
It's scary.
I can't
It's
handle it.
unbelievable.
so let me ask you guys this. Would you have rather had the choice of having Obama in office for another 4 years?
I would
or
take Bill
voting for
Clinton
these?
back. I'd taken Clinton back in a second. He did a great job. He's a centrist president.
Bill Clinton?
For the most part, I thought and again, his entire strategy, it's exceptionally famous now, was invented by Dick Morris. It's called triangulation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
You
that's-
just
But I'd
took
also
what was
love-
the popular position and went with it.
Yeah.
I'd also
Yeah.
love to see Mitt
Worked out
Romney.
fairly well.
I think Mitt Romney had the basic balance. And that's what it's all about. In life, in politics, in business, in love, it's all about balance. And this is what we're lacking here, is balance. And I think that Mitt Romney would have had that balance. I really, really do. I really believe in the man. Because he has pulled these things off. He's done things. He has a proven track record of really doing things. And I can't believe that the Republican, conservative, evangelical arena said he's a Mormon, I'm not voting for him. And they didn't come out and vote.
Yeah.
And all they had to do was vote, and he was in.
Sorry, Rio, I didn't mean to hijack.
You're all right. You're all right. Which actually brings us to our last topic, which will end on something slightly lighter. And the last topic is, ladies and gentlemen, our new network, Netflix.
Good, somebody come over to my house and help me set it up.
Brian?
Like
I don't even have Netflix.
I've been,
I need you, Brian, I need you.
tell.
I've been steadily impressed in the last couple of years at last 3 or 4 years, really, in the original programming for Netflix, and they're only ramping it up. I remember years ago having this conversation with a guy, and we were talking about how if cable networks could allow you to just pick what you wanted to watch, how it would definitely, I think people would gravitate toward it. And it seems like Netflix has, to some degree, has figured that out.
But that's a federal law that prevents that.
Yeah, no, and it is, but it's just interesting. Like we've been watching a lot of the Marvel, Marvel movies and stuff like that, and so Marvel started doing these Netflix series for Daredevil, Jessica Jones, now Luke Cage. Lane texted me about 13th, which is kind of a doc about the 13th Amendment, and it's actually kind of something that's been kind of close to my heart for a while, because of course 13th Amendment was saying there can't be any slavery except with convicted criminals. But because of that, almost immediately, the rise in the arrest rate for African Americans, in particularly, has for example, currently we have more incarcerated people than we ever had slaves, and that's
African American.
Yeah, and that's a really scary proposition to me in a lot of ways, and I don't want to get into that because really I think that's a whole podcast into itself. Yep. But just really what I wanted to talk about was the fact that none of the networks have been bringing this type of programming. It really not just stuff like 13th, but even a series like Luke Cage. There's never been the first African American superhero with his own comic was Luke Cage, and the fact that Netflix has brought that series to air, I thought was really interesting. But I think we fell in love with the original programming from Netflix with probably with House of Cards, and and just the that kind of expose on American politics, and so I kind of want to get the opinion of the panel of Netflix shows that you might like, or any opinions that you had on what Netflix is doing.
I want Lane to explain, because I get no Netflix, and my wife and I are very interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
I want Lane to explain 13 because he said he had a bone about it. And I want to understand what 13's about. I have checked into different Netflix programmings.
Right.
I understand there's some really cool stuff out there that they're doing, and it's cutting edge. What's 13?
Well, it's a historical documentary on the exploitation of the, it's called the punishment clause of the 13th Amendment, which it states that slavery is abolished in the United States, or no American shall be held a slave except as punishment. Right, and so if you look at history, it's very clear. Okay, 13th Amendment goes up, 14th Amendment goes up, 15th Amendment goes up, awesome, and then all of a sudden the prison population of the United States begins exploding, and they weren't even shy about it in the late 19th century with the criminal or the felon lease program, where prisons would lease labor out to farmers and factories.
Chain gangs.
Yeah, cut rates, right. And then that got the kibosh put on it. So it's just been an ever, and then you see the criminal justice system or the prison system morph to private prisons. And then in the moment we get private prisons, the population of people in those prisons, because they get paid on a butt in a seat kind of rate, blows up. I mean, if you look at the graph of our prison population, it's parabolic or hyperbolic in the sense that, or logarithmic is the word I'm looking for, in the sense that the arc, whereas our population isn't growing like that. So anyway, it's really interesting and infuriating at the same time. That it's really clear that there is a system, there is a machine, and even though we look really fractionalized, I think a lot of this is very well controlled.
So this is what. so to clarify for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
President Obama just recently, this is probably a good thing he did, went against the private prison system, correct?
Right. That's true.
Because they get paid. For a comparison for me in construction would be OSHA, who is self-funding.
Right.
And if they're self-funding, even though if I'm trying my best to be compliant, They can find something to hang my
They're
nuts on.
incentivized to extract money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, and privatized prisons have no incentive to release people. There's no.
Or rehabilitate them.
Right.
Or
They
rehabilitate
don't need, because they get paid for them
They
being
get
there.
paid, so they're a self-funding organization by who they have in there.
Right, so if we did, before we did some math or did some research on it, I think, so the people who decided if someone could be released actually were not involved with the prisons, but there are still ways around it to say, well, this, this inmate was, caused a fight. So now they can kind of paint this background picture to then influence whether they are allowed to stay or not.
Right, so in
If
theory,
you,
in theory, you still went before the parole board, but they had disproportionately bad disciplinary records while they were in prison.
Yeah,
In theory.
exactly.
In theory, and that's the whole problem.
well, and
is-
they don't have any control over what somebody, it's just like when you're in school. You have no control over what's written in your record.
I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but just look at the arc of how this problem happened. We start the war on drugs, right? Crack cocaine is allegedly introduced into the inner city by the CIA, allegedly,
Under George Bush.
under George Bush. And then we have the privatization of prisons
Well,
under George Bush.
You also have the 3 strikes rule.
Right, and then the
happens.
3 strikes
But
rule.
that was a
happened.
that was a Clinton.
I wonder if that
But
didn't
it's
happen
the
under
whole
Lord
arc
Cheney.
of.
Right.
I don't disagree.
No, no,
That was
no,
a
No, I'm talking
Clinton.
about
You're
the
talking
first.
though about everything that
Bush
happened.
Oh,
Yeah,
Bush,
Bush
Bushy
first,
number
yeah.
one.
Three strikes was not, definitely
No,
not.
no, no, what you guys
3
were
strikes is
saying
very
all
Clinton.
happened.
Yeah,
Clinton.
yeah,
That's
3
a
strikes was
Clinton.
Clinton. The rest of what Lane's talking about was actually under HW.
There's a lot of
And
things
Reagan.
that I think, and I'm not a Republican apologist by any stretch, but I think there's a lot of things that they get blamed for that people forget about what the real facts were. For example, No Child Left Behind was actually introduced by Ted Kennedy in conjunction with H.W. Bush, and they both worked on the bill together, and he signed it and got it through. And now people look back at it as one of the worst Republican laws that they ever passed, and yada yada. I'm like,
So it's bipartisan.
yeah, first off, the president can't introduce a legislature.
Right.
So the sponsor of the bill was Teddy Kennedy.
So,
And they put it together, and, so it was a weird moment in time.
So I think all the rhetoric is BS.
I do too. I think
Follow
a lot of
the
it's
money.
crap.
Follow the money. And in politics, that's how it is anymore.
Yeah.
But the corporations are so tied into the government anymore.
Well, there was never a time when it wasn't, though. I mean, corporations
I mean,
bailed
lobbying.
out our government. J.P. Morgan bailed out our country twice. You know, I mean, come on. It's always been that
Was
way.
our topic Netflix?
It
We
was
were talking about Netflix.
Started
no,
about-
we were talking about 13.
Yeah, but
The reason I ask is that I saw a couple of things the other day on Netflix, just some stats, which I thought were really interesting.
Okay.
So now 67% of Netflix users still pay for cable TV, but that's compared to 80% back in 2014. So that's dropped significantly over just a couple
So
of
they're
years.
putting a hurt on them.
Oh, yes.
Well,
I
a
think
lot
it's
of-
far more than just Netflix, to be honest. But
I
think
mean,
that's
you
one
have
of the reasons.
Amazon that has,
And some of them are
original
You
content.
do Amazon, you don't need a DVR anymore, you can watch whatever you want, wherever you want.
And this one I like. So
I
Net-
think
Nothing of any of it.
The
Go
only,
ahead,
the only thing
Brian.
you can't do is
Terrible.
watch sports.
he's, yeah.
So Netflix cuts over 6 days of commercials from your life per year.
Wow.
I thought
6 days.
6 days on average.
That is a stat I do not like.
I would have to say, it would be hard not having cable, but if you don't have Netflix, it's a good one to have. There's a lot of really good original content on there.
That and Amazon. I think Amazon has done, Amazon Studios has done a phenomenal job of putting out really high quality entertainment too.
And it's $100 a year for,
Well, it comes with the entire Prime membership. so
Yeah.
you
We
gotta
Amazon.
have Netflix. It's just that we haven't figured out how to make it work yet. I just got a Garmin watch.
I'm surprised
Okay.
Michelle has not figured that out, cause she's a pretty stubborn lady.
She's working on it, but neither one of us are, I'm worse than she is by a long shot. But I got a Garmin watch. So I played in a golf tournament today, and I'm trying to figure out how to make this Garmin watch, which has running, swimming, and everything else on it, because I get 10% wellness plan off my insurance. Well, Michelle and I are $700 a month a piece, $1,400 a month for our insurance that I buy through my business, which is a whole nother, once again, podcast, right?
That's a whole nother issue. Yeah.
So, but I get 10% off. Well, that watch costs $200. if I can get 10% off, that watch will pay for itself pretty quick.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, on my half of the plan. So, but figure these things out sometimes. There's a lot of technology there. I mean, somebody like Brian looks at it and goes, yeah, bada bing, bada bing, bada bing. No problem.
I've set
Lane
my,
looks at it, goes bada bing, bada bing, bada bing, no problem. I look at it and go, what the fuck is this?
I've set my mom and dad's Netflix up probably 3 times, and they keep messing
And
it
they
up.
can still screw it up. That's
Yeah.
gonna be Michelle.
I don't know
Obama.
how
He
they
said,
do it.
what do you mean I gotta plug in my watch?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
All right. I think we have covered quite a bit of ground, and really quite a bit of ground we could still cover. But let's cut it off here and save some of this enthusiasm for our next episode. And I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in to Podcast Land. And I want to end this podcast in the way I end all podcasts, and that is with the toast that started it off for me, and that is to good times with good people.